So, Uncle Nat, to get started, I like to start with a meditation with my guests. And so, if you wouldn't mind, just settle into your seat, start to close your eyes, rooting down into the seat, start to grow tall through the crown of the head, and just start to notice your breath without a need to manipulate or force it. Just taking a moment to bring your awareness to your breath. Observing maybe the movement of your breath in your body, maybe making a note of how the breath feels right now. Feeling yourself grounded, settled in, allowing your mind to drop into your body. Noticing any physical sensations that might be happening in the body. Again, just bringing your awareness, bringing your attention, scanning the body, and noticing anything that might be rising to the surface when you come to stillness. And then taking a moment to set an intention for our conversation for yourself. And when you're ready, just start to blink your eyes open, taking in your space, taking in the light, and then taking in the screen. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. What a lovely way to start a podcast.
Yeah, it helps me ground myself, and I also find that like it drops both if we're doing two guests into the conversation. So it feels really nice for me, and I think for the guests as well. I like to start with some icebreakers, and then we'll jump into the conversation. So, Uncle Nat, if you wouldn't mind, how do you define intimacy?
Wow, it's funny you should ask that question. It's actually been on my mind this week specifically.
Mm,
Wow. Intimacy for me, or at least at this point in my journey, is very clear, honest communication, lacking fear in or any attachment to the outcome or the response to that communication, and practicing being present for people in our lives or moments, whether that is eye contact, which as an autistic person is sometimes very difficult, and not always the way to intimacy. But I feel like right now I'm working on eye contact and being present. And I think intimacy is also really taking into consideration the space between two people, and what that space between two people needs to be, whether that needs to be quiet moments or whether it needs to be inundated with, heavy communication and plans, or whether it's just asking someone, how can I help or how can I be present for you right now? Again, without really attachment to what the answers to those questions might be.
mm. Thank you so much for that.
All very difficult things for me.
Yeah, it's a very difficult, allowing ourselves to be intimate is such a difficult experience. We don't get taught how to do that. It's just constant troubleshooting in different relational dynamics. And so, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Who do
Thank
you
you.
call first when you have great news?
That's drastically changed recently, actually. Um, I now tell my nephew first. My nephew lives with me now. We're both transitioning together and we're both on a journey together. And he is the first person that I want to share things with, appropriate things. But um, yeah, he's 26 and has been probably one of my best friends at this junction in my life. I have 8 nibblings. He is one of my 8 nibblings, but we're very close. Um, yeah, I think that circle of people has drastically changed recently. I've made a lot of major changes in my life, um, around who I'm letting into my inner circle and who I share things with.
I love that. I have 11 nibblings, and I have very close relationship, unique relationship with each of them.
They are each special. You're so right.
Yeah, it's oh, I have goosebumps because I really do like just thinking about them, and my role as their aunt is so important to me. Like it really does mean a lot to me. My siblings' children are so important to me. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's such a beautiful relationship to have. It's such a privilege to have.
It is really, and we lost. I have a half brother, half sister, same father, different mother, and my brother, who's the glue and angel in our family, passed last year, and that was also an impetus, for my nephew coming to live with me, and also clearly I take my role as uncle seriously, since I literally call myself Uncle Nat and my business. So
Hmm. I
reclaim
love
the
that.
uncle role.
Hmm. And it's such an important role. And I love that both of you are going through these transitional journeys together. And that's such a beautiful process. And I think there's so much to learn from younger generations and so much we can offer as the older generation. It's very cool.
Yes, yes. It's a. I mean, I was raised to call it a mentee mentor relationship, but it really is that type of dynamic of you know the give and take, of learn and
Hmm.
teach. Yeah.
Hmm. How do you like to be shown love?
You're just hitting all the questions I've been thinking about this month. Okay.
Oh, good.
I
I'm
love it.
glad.
This is good timing. Better this month than last month, I tell you. I'm glad we're doing this. Okay.
Hmm.
Wait, wait. Say the question again. Sorry.
No, no worries. How do you like to be shown love?
I'm not really like a hard zodiac person, just enough to keep my queer card. I always say that to people. Like, so I do sometimes lean zodiac. They will take it away if I don't know my sun, moon, and rising, my exes. But I am very much a Leo in that I thrive on, must have, and will ask for reassurance and compliments. And I think some people think that's shallow, and I do not. I think also, as somebody with very specific mental health challenges in my life, I have dissociative disorder. There are parts of me that need to be complimented that didn't hear it the last time. So
Hmm.
I think compliments are very important, and also like assurances. And obviously, action is really important as well. And so, acts of service are very important, and care is obviously very important. That is literally my job. But yeah, I need a good verbal, flowery love assurance.
Hmm. I love that. My rising sign is Leo, and I have like four placements in Leo. I'm a Cancer sun, but lots of Leo. So I totally understand that. And it's not a shallow thing to want that verbal reassurance. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of they might express I love you early in the relationship and then they just kind of move on. And it's like, no, every day you have to wake up and reassure yourself as an individual, but then also reassure anyone in your life. So, like, I make sure to tell all of my friends, my family, not just I love them, but how I really feel about them and express it every day. Like, fully verbally make sure it's clear.
It's really not an easy practice. I'll be honest. And
Hmm.
also,
Hmm.
of course, I crave and must have touch. The oxytocin. Obviously, I have a job where I literally lay hands on people. So
Hmm.
touch, acts of service, and words of assurance and compliments are, yeah, I guess my trifecta.
So we're going to jump into the interview portion. And I don't know if you know this, but I used to be a hairdresser. And so I totally understand the field of work that you are in. And I very much appreciate. So as a longtime hair colorist, I went to beauty school, did the whole thing. I worked with a brand called Hair Story. And a big part of my
I know
job
hair.
then was in production. Yep. So I did production and content with them. And so I was the person creating the hair stories and working with people on their journey. And so one of my favorite things was because we were a hair care brand, it didn't matter. We would do things where people would shave, like people who identified as women would shave their heads and kind of completely go against what we know as historically beautiful. And we did a whole zine about it. And I remember someone in the business end of the company was like, this doesn't make any sense. We're a hair care brand. And I was like, it makes more sense than you believe, because what we do with the hair stories is allow people to find and discover their full expression of themselves. And I used to witness people on their journey of transition, on a journey of aging, on a journey of all of these different things of self-discovery. And we were the people helping them express what was going on internally, externally, for them to show the world who they were. And that was one of the greatest experiences I've ever had in the work that we do as people who are beauticians or cosmetologists. It was a few years of my life where I had the honor of witnessing so many people fully get to express themselves. So when I discovered you on Instagram, I was so excited to speak to you because I've stepped away from doing hair and seeing clients, but I admire so much what you do. So if you wouldn't mind telling our listeners who you are, what you do, and who you work with.
Wow, that's really cool. That's a really cool lens. Yeah. I'm also a licensed cosmetologist, and esthetician work. Um, the work I do for skin came from hair, because hair affects skin. But my main love is shaping and curating facial and body hair, and creating looks for people. And you're right, that look can often be the absence of hair. So I am the owner of Uncle Nat's in Brooklyn, in Flatbush, which I just love that name, Flatbush, to do the work that I do. I do Brazilians. I created a one Brazilian for one price, all genders, all genitals, here in Flatbush. And I do that work with sugar paste, and also with laser, and soon with electrolysis, the hair removal trifecta. And I also take care of skin, and I also specialize in gender affirming practices, wound care. So I'm a chronic picker, and I am trans, and I am transitioning right now. So, and have been over the past 5 years, in different ways. And so I have created a menu that I think is very fat body focused or fat people focused, very trans focused, very sex worker focused, trauma and disability focused, and POC focused. Basically, my thought is right now in our industry, salons are functioning as a niche. They service thin, able bodied, cisgendered white women that are wealthy. And I believe that luxury is important and actually a really important part of humanizing. That's all luxury is humanizing, right? You go to a fancy restaurant, they just want to know if you're left-handed, where they should put the fork. I saw the bear. They were, when they're like, they talk a lot about like the acts of service, being of service, right? And I feel that has been a little lost in what I like to call capitalist care. And so I have a space that is community care, which goes back to the beginning of sugaring, when people just sugared each other in family units. And I try to recapture that idea of omnidirectional energy exchange, thinking not just about yourself, which is what a capitalist, model looks like. It's the me show and at the expense of you. But in community care, we have to think about the clients that are coming before and after us, the employees, the owner, the technician. You have to really think about community in that way, and that's a muscle that capitalism doesn't help us flex. Did I answer your question?
Where? Oh, you absolutely did. And I'm so excited to dive into these principles from the client's perspective as well as from the technician, because my background is in hair care and providing those services. And I think also, and I think you would agree with me, I'm a yoga teacher as well. I worked many, many years in hospitality and restaurants. And so all of these things are completely, it's all under the same umbrella of being of service to people. You mentioned the bear. And so when we work in an industry where we're being of service to people, when people are, consumers of the service industry, I love this understanding around how you are shifting away from capitalist care to community care. And I want more and more people to understand that. So I'm very, very excited for this conversation, because regardless of whether you wax your eyebrows or not, this is an important conversation to have and to understand what community care means, because I've witnessed like yoga studios that I teach at offering that. And then people maybe don't receive the message on the other end of like, well, what does that mean? Like when we call it community care, when we make accessible pricing or we do special structures, that seems so different from what we're so used to. So I definitely want to break that down a little bit more because I think it's so beneficial for people to understand from all aspects. My first question, though, around this is, how did this start for you? What are your earliest memories of dealing with body hair?
Oh, wow. Well, I talk about this a lot on Instagram. My mother tweezed my eyebrows. I had a big, beautiful Brooke Shields thick, which is in my day was a big deal. If you had Brooke Shields eyebrows, that was like, and I had a unibrow. And
Mhm.
in retrospect, and it was the 70s. I was born in 1975, the decade of loving body hair. And
Mm.
my mother tweezed my eyebrows. And really without asking me, and really without like, it was a real, in retrospect, I feel the loss of that, you know, I feel the loss in that because, nobody showed me a picture of Frida Kahlo or of the multitudes of people that had a unibrow in the 70s and were rocking it. So I think that was my first experience. My mom also used to put my hair in these pink sponge rollers because she wanted my hair to be curly, but I had like no wave to my hair at that like Pantene hair that's just like
Mhm.
shiny and great as a board. That's what I had. And that's really cool fucking hair. That's share hair. In the 70s to have share hair. And my mom was putting it in, so I mean, it was just like it didn't make any sense. Like she was just like so manic about, changing me in the first grade.
Mm.
And of
Mhm.
course the curls would fall out of my hair in the car ride to school. It made no sense. I slept poorly. The whole thing was like not, it wasn't even restorative. It was like very
Mhm.
stressful. She was fixing
Yeah.
me. Yeah. And then my mother ended up, she started a nail salon out of our house. My mother got a government grant. She was a single mother fleeing a domestic violence relationship. Like she was a rock star. And she started doing nails in our house. And I noticed that the conversation was constantly around diet. Well, it was the 80s too. Did anybody not talk about a diet in the 80s? But just it was just not. It wasn't for me. It was all very femme. I bit my nails to the quick. I'm showing my nails right now for those of you that are watching this in audio. But I bit my nails to the quick. I picked my scabs. I didn't carry a purse. you know, I wasn't a tomboy. I also, I wanted to wear pretty dresses and a crown, but I had my own very specific way of accessing my vision of like what I wanted to look like. And my mother did not get it, understand it. It didn't fit in the spa or the salon that was literally in my house. So I think these are the foundational moments that ended up influencing Uncle Nat's.
Mm. I can really appreciate that. I mean, as you can see, I have very big eyebrows. And it was actually, if I think back to like childhood traumas, that was one of the biggest things I was bullied on was my body hair, facial hair. Like I had hair on my upper lip. I had a unibrow. Like kids used to call me, like I had a best friend, a boy best friend in preschool and kindergarten named Ernie. So they call me Bert. I was called Oscar the Grouch. I actually was called Brooke Shields as an insult. So this is 90s kids and being like, your eyebrows are like Brooke Shields, which is so crazy, right? It's so crazy. Um, Things like that. Just kids teasing me about my body hair. Just teasing me about my body hair. So I understand and appreciate because I remember being in like third grade coming home crying to my mom and like like the only solution was to take me to get waxed. And I remember they just like waxed the middle and separated, but it looked so weird. And then for 2 decades, my eyebrows looked insane. And I was every week and a half, I
Wow.
was getting my eyebrows waxed, threaded, everything you name it. And then in 2016, I met a brow specialist through Hair Story. He came in as a model for us, and he started doing my brows. And he literally was a regenerative process of like tweezing, explaining to me what to do, how to kind of nurture more growth and allowing me to grow, like growing them in weird spots. And like there was such this beautiful journey that after 2 years of working with him, my eyebrows are now back to their fullest, healthiest, and I don't actually tweeze or do anything to them anymore. Like they're just their natural state. And I'm so happy with my face now. I feel like it's my face. So I appreciate like both the removal of hair to like express oneself and feel really good about our physical appearance, but also that ability to then reclaim those parts of us, like the smooth shiny hair, like even that, like I've gone back to my natural hair color that's straight as a board, silky shiny. But when I was a kid, like bleaching and perming was like second grade, got a perm. Like, but yes, growing back my eyebrows especially has been such a empowering experience for me. So I can speak to that of like our body hair and the way that we wear it is similar to how we wear our hair, wear the clothes that we do. It's a full expression. It's a continuation expression of how we feel.
Yes, yes. You know how they say that like trans care is cis care? You know, like
Hmm.
trans healthcare is cis healthcare. Like that however we're transitioning or trying to, realize our most authentic self is not just a trans journey, right? Like we are all on that journey in ways. I think that's a beautiful way to put it. It's also not has nothing to do with the modality. Like,
Hmm.
tweezing and plucking eyebrows, not the problem, which is I feel like we get into a lot with feminism. Feminism is like, oh, you're taking off your hair. You're not a good feminist. And it's like, no, it's called body autonomy. I'm literally just doing what the fuck I feel like doing. So I love
Hmm.
that we both had like eyebrow moments or body hair moments where it was the exact same idea, but with different intent. And
Hmm.
that's the difference between a non-consensual and a consensual moment, or a healing moment and a not healing moment.
Hmm. I love that. Thank you. So you mentioned gender affirming care, fat glorification, and trauma and disability awareness. How does that operate under the principles of Uncle Nat's Your Space and the day to day operations?
Well, that's changed a lot over the years. I think that my dedication, the commitment to the mission is a commitment to reinventing every single day what it means. So every day we
Hmm.
have to like make decisions, and I have to make decisions as a business owner, and I have to think to myself, is this fat glorifying? Is this trauma disability aware? Is this through the lens of the needs of POC folks? Like these are all, and asking those questions every day. I think of it kind of like an onion. You kind of peel back layers. I used to think that this work was about virtue signaling. I used to think that it was about, I used to think that the mission and being of service to the marginalized community meant I had to like get a foghorn and let everyone know I'm a safe and good person, which I mean, I think was appropriate for when I first started. Like that is part of the journey. And then I got to a point where I was able to kind of peel that back. And then it was about people pleasing. Oh, I thought I had to people please. I had to meet the needs of every fat person, right? And that was a journey of realizing that you can't actually people please. You have to actually build your own internal ethics around what does fat glorification mean to me? Because it's going to mean just something different to me than to someone else. And there is no one ring to rule them all. There's no like one way to be of service. And that's another thing that I think in feminist communities, that has also been a learning curve as a community we've had with cancel culture, and people really saying like, oh, you're doing it wrong because you didn't meet my needs. And it's like, no, 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 like you're disabled, I'm disabled, and so is the other person in the waiting room. We're all fucking disabled here. Like what does that mean right now in this moment? Because for some people it means I need you to take me late, and for someone else it might mean I need you to take me on time and early. And for me, it might be right something else. So I think the day to day right now is that I've realized it's not virtue signaling, it's not people pleasing. I've had to, through my own canceling in 2021, I've had to create my own internal ethics and stick to them, even if I have to tell a client or an employee that I'm so sorry I cannot meet your ongoing needs right now. And that's a very hard thing to say when you're claiming care space. And specifically for fat clients, I'm thinking a lot around the infrastructure of the space. This vintage Nicoletti sofa behind me and the matching chair next to me had to be retrofitted so that they sit 20 inches high, because that is an important height, I think, for people that are disabled, people that are fat, and those are two separate things, by the way. So I'm thinking about infrastructure. How do people sit? How do people lay? What is the physical interaction with the space? What are the weight limits on the tables? By the way, Earth, shout out to Earthlight, get your shit together, stop hating fat people, and like make a table that's for fat people, period. Because there's also just a lack of like resources. I would love to have an Uncle Nat's
Design function.
catalog.
Yeah.
It's the only, yeah, so that people could literally get what they need to be accessible, because the logistical part of it is the hardest part, I think. Then there's
Hmm.
language, learning to say fat, learning to you know, uncharge it, and and other things. Also as an esthetician, just like understanding what might be the issues that fat people need. Yeah, we might have to talk about a fungal infection. Calm yourself. It's okay. Like, we get them.
Hmm.
And I go through that with each of with each marginality. You have to study and think about it. If it's not your marginality, right? And when we started this, it was all about expressing my needs, right? As a fat, trans,
Hmm.
disabled, and a person who has experienced trauma and has PCOS. And then I moved into other people's needs that are outside of my own, and that took a lot of takes and continues to take a lot of study and care and absorbing of people's needs.
Let's take a quick break. Are you tired of the hormonal roller coaster that comes with birth control pills? 11 years ago, I decided to ditch hormonal birth control and embark on a journey to find a more natural alternative. Over the years, I've used condoms, calendar tracking methods, and withdrawal, which can sometimes be pretty risky and stress inducing practices. However, I've discovered a game changer: Natural Cycles. It's an FDA cleared birth control app that has brought me peace of mind like never before. Whether you're planning or preventing pregnancy, Natural Cycles has got your back. Let's talk about numbers for a moment, even though I hate numbers. Natural Cycles is 98% effective when used properly. And here's the best part: you're not putting any extra hormones into your body. It's all about understanding your cycle and making informed decisions. Ready to start your hormone-free birth control journey? Use the link in our episode description to get 15% off the annual subscription for Natural Cycles. That's right, 15% off to take charge of your reproductive health in a natural and effective way. Say goodbye to those hormonal ups and downs and hello to a birth control approach that aligns with your body.
Not all lubes are created the same. Here at Head South, we've worked diligently to pare down the ingredients so there is no fuss and no unnecessary bits and bobs. Head South intimacy serums make it simple and easy for you to reduce friction and enhance pleasure. Listeners can get 20% off their first order of a starter kit using the code PODCAT24. That's PODCAT24. And now, back to the episode.
I so appreciate your level of honesty and speaking to your journey, and also, speaking to the fact that you've been canceled, that you've experienced this. But it's so important for people to understand that, like, I love the steps in this process, because it isn't just we're claiming to be this and this is who we are now, this is our vision, this is our mission, and then, we're done for the day. In the same vein of, like, speaking and expressing love, you're not just like, you tell your partner you love them and then you're done for the day. It is every day. I love that it's every day. It's a practice, it's a learning, it's an unlearning, and then it's a new practice, and it's just a constant journey. I love the experience of when I have Head South, my business, and the things that I've learned and how I've grown and changed, and how I've, shifted my mindsets around certain things, unraveled things, rebuilt them again in the 2 years I've had this, has been incredible. I think it's such an incredible experience to go through you do have to kind of, when you start moving on this shift, when you shift away from the capitalistic belief system and move into a community care, you do have to be more expressive. You do kind of have to, like, shout from the mountaintop, this is who we are. And then that transition into more of the doing, expressing, to actually living and breathing it. And as you're living and breathing it, you start to learn what works and what doesn't work, because community care starts with the individual. And if the individual isn't setting up boundaries, isn't sure and like people pleasing, like you said, or like trying to accommodate all the things just because, like you were mentioning, like someone's disabled, I'm disabled, this other person's disabled, it doesn't make it a monolith. It doesn't make it like you all feel and experience the world the same. And so it's always like that, creating the compass, the true north that you are working from, and providing it within the realm of this understanding and who you want to support. And the people that connect to you, who understand you and want that experience, will come, versus like everybody that's in Brooklyn, Flatbush, Queens is coming to everyone and they have all different expectations.
Now I'm more discerning, right? I'm not trying to capture 100% of the market anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm very clear
Hmm.
about what I do and I don't do. And I try to help people see that before they walk in the door so that it's a good experience.
Hmm. I have to say, I was looking at your website, and it is so well laid out. It explains so much, very clearly, very succinctly, what you offer and how you work. I love how it's broken down, like how we work within the community. This is our culture, and this is what you expect. The FAQs are laid out so clear. Like it's so well done, visually pleasing. I just want to compliment your website and how people receive that information.
Wow. Thank you for saying that.
And then I wanted to jump into, from a client's perspective, and understanding sliding scale programs, because that is something you lay out a little bit in your on your website. And I love that you support people going through gender affirming care and transition, as well as sex workers. It's something I advocate for. Is sex work is work. I'm a big advocate for working with and helping and supporting people in the marginalized spaces doing the good work, which like people go at, like when you mentioned like trans healthcare is cis healthcare, like at the end of the day, like it is just expanding that care and really being more considered in the same way that like sex work is work. So it's of service, it's healing, it's a process, it's a journey. It's the other stuff that you believe about it in negativity is coming from societal beliefs, things that you are carrying with you. That's not the actual work. And so validating sex work and supporting them, I was like blown away that you offer this. So I would love for you to explain what sliding scale is, what community care is, how that functions in the operation of your business.
Right on. Yeah. Well, when I first opened the doors 7 years ago, I knew that I wanted to create accessible luxury because I felt like
Mhm.
as marginalized people, we don't have access to luxury a lot. Whether it's just because we financially don't, or whether we don't feel welcomed in fancy spaces. Like I've been going to Tulum since like 2008, and I used to feel really comfortable there, and I feel less and less comfortable every time I go because I'm photobombing some thin influencers photo, right? So I knew that I wanted to offer luxury. I knew that holistic care, and actually, I use an occupational therapeutic profiling model and narrative care model. So I have a lot of like new medical community interaction processes that are like just now being used in, in the medical community. Well, hopefully, but I mean, it's taught in some of the schools. And so sussing out what a client needs, and being able to suss out how I can do my job and pay my bills while also customizing every single step of a process that most salons try to streamline. So
Mhm.
instead of being a conveyor belt, which does make sense, I think conveyor belt work is work. I have a lot of friends that have conveyor belt, waxing salons and the 7 minute Brazilian and all those things actually make total sense. I don't think there's such thing as a bad business plan necessarily, but I knew that that wasn't going to be my business plan. And I knew that my business plan was
Mhm.
going to be how do I give the most creative, tailor-made processes. And so I realized that I would have to charge. I'd have to charge. And the people that could pay it will pay it. And that the people that cannot, or the people that need the mutual aid, will get the mutual aid. So from day
Mhm.
one, I was giving what we used to call the sugar fund. It worked a little bit differently back then. It wasn't just the sliding scale it is today, but it's changed form. But basically, over the past 7 years, I've given away over $300,000 in mutual aid to trans clients, sex worker clients coming here. And that has also gone through a lot of shifts, right? When I had employees, I think I really started to realize, like, culturally how white people look, or culturally how white culture looks at charity. And
Mm.
I had to make a hard shift, especially with my employees, to say this is not charity, and trans and sex worker clients do not have to perform poverty in order to get support. It's something I really get upset about. So many of us have to pay out of pocket for transition, and it can cost more than a house, you know? And a lot of that, unless, we're expected a lot of times to, like, leave our jobs and do underground work, and to perform poverty for years in order to transition. And I hate that. I think that we should be able to, as all marginalized folks, should be able to walk into a space, feel the care of a Michelin star restaurant, and somehow be able to access that space. And so I guess that's the background behind the now we just call it the sliding scale, which is 40% for laser now, because trans folks need laser, right, if they're going into surgery. And also, we need laser if we want to be able to not spend an hour a day caring for our fucking hair, which is what I've done my whole life. And also, if you're a sex worker, you might need hair removal in order to, oh, I don't know, go to work and, like, pay your bills. So that's the impetus behind that. Was that your whole question? I'm sorry.
No, no, that was the full question. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
What steps are you taking to realize your vision of a world where gender is never on the menu and all bodies are offered the same comfort and care? Like, how do you support or educate other business owners, whether they own a yoga studio, an esthetician space, a spa, a beauty salon, whatever it is? When you're an owner of a service-based business, what do you envision and how can you offer them advice on taking on, like, inclusivity, accessibility, maybe shifting the way that they pay themselves as well? Like, that's been a big thing I've seen and witnessed, and even started doing when I was still doing hair, was like shifting my value and worth, and understanding, like, oh, it might not be the conveyor belt 20 clients a day at this price, but what I'm offering is energetic, it's time, it's really fully bringing my full attention to the process. So what is your advice for people doing this kind of care work, and how they can start to implement things like removing gender from the menu, improving their services so they're more accessible?
That's great. Well, I definitely say that, at least I know in the salon industry, you could take gender off the menu in a day. I believe that strongly. I think just logistically, taking gender off the menu can happen in a day. And I think the idea is maybe making a list of, if you have a gendered menu right now, make that list. What makes it a brozillion or a manzillion? Is it just a penis? Put that on the list. Okay, great. You think penis means manzillion. Great. Then that tells us that. So, like, when I coach people, I have a pro chat with Nat. I have worked with some people that are outside of the salon industry, and we make these lists, of, okay, what is your preconceived notion of what a man's and a woman's haircut is? What is your preconceived notions of what a man's and a woman's shoe is? That's my biggest pet peeve. A fucking shoe? Somehow feet are gendered? I don't understand it. Every person I've ever dated in my life wears women's shoes, and I wear men's. I just blew your whole list out of the fucking water right now. So what is it? I mean, is it really colors? You really think all guys just want navy blue? Barf. If anything, I feel like I have worn less color in my relationships, and the cis men I've dated have worn more. Even the person, my buddy Liz Lau, who does my rings. I'm showing my rings right now, but she's my accessible luxury jeweler, and she makes jewelry for, like, Beyonce, and then also cares about me back when I had a $500 budget. So she was like, I'm wearing her men's ring. This is a men's ring. This is, and I've had partners that have worn her women's rings. And so I think when we start to really, like, talk about gender and what we're offering, make the list. What are your preconceived notions of what men's and women's shit are? And then maybe reach out to someone like me, or reach out to your nearest non-binary person that will consent to give you the spoons to maybe talk to you about how ridiculous that list is, right? So in hair, we just say, just talk about the length, the texture. Are you using clippers? I love clipper cuts. Are we using a razor? Like, these are the ways to describe things. And when we're talking about things like shoes, just talk about a wide width fucking shoe and stop acting like only men have wide feet. Yo, I'm 350 pounds. I got a wide ass foot. And, you know, I don't think that the preconceived notions that we have around gender make any sense once you start to divorce yourself from the gender binary. And so I would say that is the first thing is get clear on what you think the gender binary is, and then let's smash it. Just find a way to smash it and learn to describe what you do better. If you're a professional, this is your job. You do this for a living. You take money for it. You are on a course to 10,000 hours master it. You want to become, the Yoda of Brazilians. Then you better be able to describe it in a better way than men's and women's. How boring.
Yep.
Brazilian makes no sense to me.
Truly. It's valuing your technique, skills, and your time. And actually, by removing that gender binary menu, you actually start to empower yourself and value yourself more as the practitioner, as the person offering these services, because you start to exactly that, like describe your work in a different way with value and describe it and understand the value of your time, the value of your education. So that 10,000 hours, mastering something, you start to apply that. So when the list is no longer this and very generic and set up, but you understand exactly what you're providing and the time it takes to provide that and the energy, it's of your benefit to know and then be able to speak to your clientele about that versus like, we're shifting this and they don't understand, but like being able to articulate. And so like, that's how we started this conversation, was communication is so important and the words we use are so important. And so it not only will help your clientele feel more welcome in your spaces, opening up clientele that maybe wouldn't have come to you, but it also brings more validity, value, embracing what we actually do as people who provide service in a different way. Uncle Nat, I'm so sad we do have to wrap up. I could keep talking to you all day. It's been such a pleasure and a joy. How do people find you? How do they connect with you?
Easy. There is no other Uncle Nat. So if you type that into the Google, you will find me. And it's not simple, but I really focus on Instagram. Thank you for liking my website. I did put a lot of time and effort into it. So you can go to unclenats.com for sure. You can go to uncle.nats on Instagram. Those are the two places I spend the most time. I'm trying to do the TikTok a little bit more. But yeah, that's me.
And then you are launching a podcast. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm launching a podcast with my buddy Kristen. Kristen Rankin is someone I have known on Instagram for the last 6 years. They are the director, creator of the Dress Code Project, which is a not-for-profit organization that helps hairstylists remove gender from the menu. And they have this really cool gender-free haircut club. It's like it goes across the United States. And Kristen and I started a podcast called Other People's Hair, where we talk about other people's hair. And we're really, it's our first time podcasting. So we're learning everything, and it's been really fun. And it's video and audio. And if you go to otherpeopleshair.podcast on Instagram, you can find us. And if you go to Uncle Nat's, you'll see all the links to it as well.
Awesome. Thank you so, so, so much. I appreciate your time, your wisdom, your insight, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much. You have a great podcast here.
Thank you. Special thanks to all of our guests. Head South is hosted by Kat Meyer, produced by Isis Barlow, edited by Megan Hook, with music by Lily Rezi Rothman, graphics by Ella Chodos Irvine, cover art by Gina Ship Casey, and intro by Murph Meyer.
If you're looking for me,